And back with us now, former federal prosecutor Andrew Cherkasky, former assistant FBI director Chris Swecker. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Let's first get your reaction to this. We're going to please watch Manhattan DA Bragg say we cannot normalize criminality. Last year, Alvin Bragg cut more than half of felony charges down to misdemeanors. Watch this.
These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct.
First to you, Andrew, what's your reaction?
Well, he has a long way to go to prove that Donald Trump committed any misconduct, much less the serious criminal misconduct that he's alleging here. There are so many issues. They say in the law, if the law is not on your side, argue the facts. If the facts aren't on your side, argue the law. If neither are on your side, you're in big trouble. And he is in big trouble here because he has to effectively prove beyond a reasonable doubt 2 separate crimes. And I don't think he's come anywhere close to establishing, even in the notice, in the charges themselves, what he's going after. So this case has problems from the get-go. The longer I look at it, the more problems I see.
And Chris, you know, violent crime here in New York City is up nearly, it's up about 23%. DA Bragg's office is a revolving door for violent reoffenders, Chris. They terrorize taxpayers, make the city unlivable. The subways are hell. Bragg's team is accused of letting out offenders, number of them, with more than 100 arrests. There were 10 criminals. They made up nearly 500 crimes. 60% of those guys are out roaming the streets.
Yeah, I mean, we've come a long way since days when NYPD, working with the DA's office, which they need to do, drove crime down so dramatically in the 90s. They arrested the bad guys. They arrested the recidivist offenders who were, you know, they were repeatedly victimizing residents in New York City. So, yeah, we know that's proven that you can reduce crime in that fashion. You have to have the DA's office doing what they're supposed to do, which is prosecuting bad guys. We know that he reduces half the felony charges down to misdemeanors. He only wins about half of those, and he only wins about 29% of his misdemeanor cases. So that, you know, what we're talking about is a total disaster of a district attorney's office. No matter what NYPD does, you know, the crime is proliferating, dramatic increases, and I lay that right at his feet.
You know, what Chris just said, Andrew, what do you think? Because we have about 7 dozen homicides and more than 3,500 robberies already in New York City this year alone.
Well, I think we absolutely have to look at the problems that we have with very serious crimes, especially before we get to the far less serious crimes that we're talking about in Mr. Trump's case. But when we have a city that's inundated with an increase in crime, you have to look at what the resources are in the prosecution office. Is it just a political point that Mr. Bragg is trying to make by essentially letting criminals go and going soft on crime? Or is it a resource issue? Is he misusing his resources or redirecting those resources to the Trump prosecution while there are so many serious crimes going on? I think that after we saw the amount of resources that have gone into the Trump indictment and how flat it fell, I think there are going to be huge questions about where the money, where the time is going in the DA's office here in Manhattan.
So what Andrew just said, Chris, that's what House lawmakers, chairs Jordan, Comer and Steil want to find out about, and Speaker McCarthy. Misuse, I mean, given all those crimes, the misuse of federal funds, because taxpayers here in New York City, voters are getting harmed, and minority groups, minority neighborhoods are really getting hurt.
Yeah, as a former local, county prosecutor, I know you have to respect the power that you have. You have to use it judiciously. You have to you have to prioritize your prosecutions. You have limited resources, and you can't, you shouldn't, a responsible district attorney's office would not squander those resources on frivolous prosecutions and prosecutions that don't have any impact on the crime that is most important to you. So, what we're dealing with here is a DA who now is going to have to buckle up and get in there and be an attorney. And I don't think he's capable of doing that. I think what he was shooting for was the big pop here. He was the person to indict Trump. Now I don't think he can cash a check here. I don't think he can follow through on the prosecution. I think it gets eliminated. It gets thrown out on one of the first preliminary motions.
Got it. Andrew Cherkasky, Chris Swecker, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight.